from bakingamoment.com. Thanks so much for clicking over today to watch our live recipe demo. I'm here with Jen. She's sitting off camera and she's going to be keeping track of all the comments and questions. So as we go along, if you have questions, just drop them in a comment and we'll do our best to get them answered during the broadcast if possible. So guess what we're making today? We're going to make muffins. I love making muffins. I make them all the time for my kids and for myself and my husband. We all love them. I like them because they take about 15 minutes to make and you get a big batch and you can throw them in the freezer and munch on them all week long. Sometimes they even last for us longer than a week. So I published a new recipe. Well, it's actually not that new, but I republished an old recipe with new photos and lots more information this morning on blueberry muffins. So if you really like blueberry muffins, head over to bakingamoment.com and check out my favorite blueberry muffin recipe. But today we're going to do chocolate because I have plenty of blueberry in the house right now. So I thought we'll mix it up a little bit and we'll do chocolate for the live today, and then I'll have two kinds of muffins in my freezer. So let's get started. What do you say? Muffins are super simple to make. There are like a few little techniques that'll help your muffins come out their best. So as we go along, I'll be sharing those kinds of tips with you. But the most important thing to know with muffins is that they are in the quick bread family, which a quick bread is just a bread, usually more of a sweet bread, although you can do savory too, that doesn't have any yeast in it. So it's more cakey. It's got, instead of yeast, it's got baking powder or baking soda. We're going to be using baking powder today. So they're quick and easy to make, and they all pretty much follow the same kind of formula as far as how to make them. You start with dry ingredients, you mix your dry ingredients together, and then you have your liquid ingredients. You mix your liquid ingredients together, and then you put them together and stir them up and bake them. So that's how they're done. And besides muffins, some other kinds of things that are in the quick bread category would include pancakes, waffles, like banana bread, like those kinds of breads that are very cakey, scones, biscuits, things like that. They would all be in the quick bread family, and they're all kind of interchangeable too. Like if you click over and read the post that went up this morning, you'll see that I said like you can bake your muffins in a donut pan, or you can put your pancake batter in your waffle maker. Like they all work kind of interchangeably. The only thing you want to keep in mind is that it might change the yield, so you might have more or fewer muffins or donuts or whatever it is you're making than what the recipe says. And it might also change the bake time a little bit too, because like I'm going to do some mini muffins today. So, oh, I just remembered something. I'll catch up with that later, but I need to change my oven tab. Sorry. Anyway, I was just saying, I totally lost my train of thought there. Oh yeah, the bake time. So like if you're making a mini muffin instead of a full-size muffin, then obviously they're going to be smaller, so they're going to bake in much less time. So you want to keep an eye on that. If you're not making it the way the recipe states, then you just got to be on your toes. Just keep a close watch and make sure that you're not over baking or under baking. So do we have any questions so far?
Actually, somebody did already ask a general
question.
Great. Difference between vanilla bean paste and vanilla extract.
Okay, well vanilla extract is made with, they usually take alcohol of some kind. Like I think commercially it's usually some kind of grain alcohol. But if you wanted to make it at home, you could do it with vodka, would work just the same way. And they just soak the vanilla beans in the alcohol and let all the like vanilla-ness come out into the liquid. Whereas vanilla bean paste is more of like, it's more of almost like a gel kind of quality to it, and it's loaded with the vanilla bean seeds. So like you could put a teaspoon of it in whatever it is you're making, and you will see tons of those little dark flecks running all throughout your batter. It's great. I love it. I used to use it like almost exclusively, but I ran out and there happens to be a vanilla shortage going on right now. I don't know if you guys have heard about the vanilla bean shortage, but there's actually a shortage, and the vanilla prices are like off the chart. Yeah, they're sky high. So I thought I was going to pick some up the other day at the grocery store, and it was $30 for like this much vanilla bean paste. And I was like, you know what, never mind. I'll wait till the prices come back down again. So that's the difference. I definitely think vanilla bean paste is preferable, but it does cost a little bit more, so you have to be willing to invest in it. But you know what, here's a tip for you. If you guys live near a home goods store, I often see it at Home Goods for much less than it costs at like a cooking supply store or a grocery store. So if you happen to find yourself at Home Goods, check out that section where they always have like the gourmet foods and stuff, and see if you can get some there for a cheaper price. I might actually do that today because I'm going to be out running errands this afternoon. I can't wait. Jen's laughing because I've been talking about it all morning, but I somehow managed to get most of my work done for the week early this week, and I realized it last night, and I texted her, and I'm like, guess what? After our live, I'm going to go play hooky for a little while. I got to get out in the nice weather, and I got errands to run, so... And then she got here this morning, and I'm like, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to go out. I'm so excited.
She's not lying all morning.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, back to the muffins. Let's talk about the muffins a little bit. Let me tell you about what ingredients we're going to be using today. For our dry ingredients, we have flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt. And then for our liquid ingredients, we have butter, which I'm going to be melting, Greek yogurt, eggs, and milk, vanilla, and we're going to put chocolate chips in at the very end. That'll be like the star of the show. So we're going to start by mixing the dry ingredients together. So I'm just going to add the sugar to the flour, and I'm going to add a tablespoon of baking powder, which I know it seems like a lot, right? It is kind of a lot, but that's what it takes to make a really puffy, fluffy, tall bakery-style muffin. And if you want to halve this recipe, it works really well halved. And half of a tablespoon would be 1.5 teaspoons. So maybe that sounds a little, more reasonable to you. I don't know if you think about it that way. So I'm just going to whisk the dry ingredients together just until they're combined. And you don't have to be real careful about it. And now I'm going to throw this butter into the microwave and get it melted. So I'm just going to grab a paper towel because I don't want it to pop and spray all over the inside of my microwave, because that always happens, especially when I don't have it covered. When I think that I can get away with not covering it. Like, oh, it'll be in there quick, it'll be fine. No, it's never fine. So everybody's microwave is a little bit different, but on mine, I find 1.5 minutes is just perfect to melt 1 stick of butter. So we'll let that go. And I don't know if you noticed, but I have it in like a really big measuring cup, right? So what I'm going to do is when that's done melting, I'm going to add the other liquid ingredients into that measuring cup, mix them together. So that's why I like to use a big measuring cup, because it allows room for all the other ingredients that are going to be going in. So that's my little trick from making muffins hundreds and hundreds of times over. And I will mention too that I'm going to do them in the mini size today, which is why I had a little freak attack there a minute ago about my oven temperature, because I set my oven temperature up for full-size muffins. I just wasn't thinking. But I'm going to do the minis because this is my son's favorite breakfast. If you guys have ever seen advertised on TV, they call them Little Bites. They're like a pre-made, pre-packaged mini muffin, and they come in like snack packs. My son saw that on TV and was like, I want Little Bites. Can you get me Little Bites? And I'm thinking, I can make you Little Bites in 15 minutes flat, and we'll probably have like 3 times what comes in a box of Little Bites. So that's what I told him. I'm like, how about mommy makes you some homemade ones? Of course, he's very skeptical. He's like, no, I went the store-bought ones, but I'm like, let's try it and see how you like them. And he actually likes them, so that was a win. All right, so our butter is melted and ready to go. And ideally, you know, it's best if you can let this cool a little bit because it's pretty hot and steamy right now. But I don't have that kind of time today. So we're just gonna do what we gotta do here. This is a cup of Greek yogurt, and I really love baking with Greek yogurt because it's so thick and creamy, and it's also got like a little bit of acidity to it, so it's gonna help activate the baking powder that's in the recipe. But if you don't have Greek yogurt, or if you can't find Greek yogurt where you live, then you can substitute either with sour cream or buttermilk. Either one will work well in the same amount. And if you don't have buttermilk, you can make buttermilk by mixing about a tablespoon, I think it is. It says it on the recipe, so go check it out. I think it's a tablespoon.
I think it's a tablespoon and a half to a cup.
Okay, it's either a tablespoon or a tablespoon and a half per cup of milk, and you just stir the white vinegar or lemon juice into your milk and let it sit for about 5 minutes, and you'll notice it'll start to get thicker and it'll almost look like it's curdled, and that's what you want. That's very similar to buttermilk. It will work just as well as buttermilk does. So no excuses. You can't not make muffins just because you don't have Greek yogurt in your fridge, right? So, okay, so I've put my Greek yogurt, I've put my eggs, my milk, and my vanilla into this measuring cup, and now I'm just gonna whisk it all together until it's nice and smooth. And then we're gonna put it in the bowl. So while I'm mixing, do we have any other questions, Jen?
We do. One of our Instagram users wants to know if you could omit the salt. They have a dietary issues. They can't have like added salt or anything like that, and would that affect kind of the outcome of the...
No, it's not going to mess with the chemistry. Obviously, it will mess with the flavor a little bit. So I wouldn't recommend it unless you have like a dietary reason not to. It's not a whole lot of salt. We're talking about a quarter of a teaspoon of kosher salt for 12 full-size muffins. So that's really just like a few grains of salt in each muffin. But I understand if you have a dietary restriction, then yeah, definitely leave it out, and it won't affect anything other than the flavor. So that's a good question. Thank you for that.
We also had a question about cake tins.
Yeah.
Actually, they just asked that question again.
I'm getting there. We'll get around to you, we promise.
They want to know which type you prefer or think are best to use, galvanized or aluminum.
Okay. So, this is gonna sound terrible, but like my favorite kind of cake pan is a cheap cake pan. For some reason, I just like the really cheap, lightweight ones, and I've been, you know, it's been wonderful. I've like received some really great bakeware from different bakeware companies over the years. They wanted me to try their products, and they're all great. Don't get me wrong, they're all great. But I always go back to like the cheapy, lightweight. This is aluminum, I think, but it's non-stick aluminum. That you can buy like at the supermarket. Those are my favorite. I don't know, I can't explain it. Maybe it's just because that's what I've always, you know, baked with, and that's more what I'm used to, but those are my favorite. And the same goes for baking sheets too. I love the half sheet size baking sheets that you know, they're like commercial. It's like what I used to use when I worked in a commercial kitchen, and they're just lightweight, they're aluminum, and they conduct the heat really well, and they're insulated, so it's an even kind of heat. I love them. I love them so much. So that's just my quirkiness, I guess. That's what I like. But I think that this liquid is ready to go into the dry. And here's one of those quick bread tips that I said, like at the beginning when I said there's certain techniques that'll help your quick breads come out their best. This is probably the most important one, and it is not to overmix. Like, I think it's human nature. Like, we all have this desire to like make everything so perfectly blended and smooth with no lumps in it. But when it comes to quick bread, it's actually better if it's a little lumpy and maybe even like has some streaks of flour still in it. So I'm just gonna stir this together. I'm kind of folding a little bit, and I did want to mention too, because I've been making so many muffins in the last week or so, that I've noticed that different Greek yogurts have different like moisture content in them, and some of them are wetter than others. And so if you're mixing your muffin batter and it just seems like so super dry and it'll never come together, then you might want to compensate with a little extra milk, because that's probably the reason why. But that said, this is a pretty thick batter, and I like the thick batter because when it puffs up in the oven, it stays up because it's got like that structure to it. It's not going to puff up and then sink down. So I really do like a stiffer muffin batter for sure. And this is a pretty stiff muffin batter. But I saw how dry my yogurt was when I was measuring it out this morning, and I was like, you know what? This is going to take more than 3 tablespoons of milk, which is what the recipe says. So I added a couple extra tablespoons. Okay, so that has some streaks of flour still in it, and it's good because we still have to stir it some more because we have to add the chocolate chips in. So when the chocolate chips go in and I start stirring, then it's going to be perfect. And I'm using semi-sweet chocolate chips today. My favorite kind of chip for a mini muffin is a mini chip because they just disperse themselves like really well throughout the muffin. But we're low on minis, so I'm using what we have, and these work really well too. These are good. The best, I think, in a chocolate chip muffin, I love like a darker chocolate in a chocolate chip muffin because you get that contrast between the light, fluffy vanilla batter and the dark chocolate chips. I'm a contrast freak. I love contrasting flavors, so that's how I really prefer to do it. Okay, so there's just a little bit of batter in the bottom of my bowl here. I'm just going to make sure that it's pretty well blended, and that looks good. So here, let me hold my bowl up so you can see what the batter looks like. See how thick it is? It's nice and thick. All right, so, and over here I have my mini muffin pans. They're greased up and ready to go. You could also use paper liners. That works really well too. But for me, the way my kids are with trash, I just as soon not have wrappers, because I find wrappers under the couch, all over the tables, you know, in their bedrooms, you name it. There's trash everywhere. It's like they have an aversion to trash cans or something. So if I can avoid making extra trash, that's a good thing. And I'm going to use my favorite scoop to portion out the batter equally in each well of the muffin tin. So do we have other questions, Jen?
Yeah, a follow-up question to the cake tin. Instagram user said they thought aluminum was really bad for your health, which
it might be. You know what? I've heard that too. And in that case, you use whatever kind of pan you want, but if you want to use an aluminum pan and you're worried about something like that, just make sure you line it so it's not coming in contact with your food. Whenever I use those half-sheet baking sheets that I was talking about, I always line them with parchment paper, and I buy the parchment paper online on Amazon, and you can get like 200 sheets that are pre-cut that fit your pans perfectly. And they usually, like a pack of 200 usually lasts me at least a few months, and I bake like almost every day, so they really do last for a while. And if you're talking about a cake pan or a muffin tin, same thing, you know, use a paper liner, or I always line the cake pans with parchment too. Like, I'll put the cake pan on a sheet of parchment, trace around it lightly with a pencil, cut out the circle, and put that in the bottom of the pan. You could do the same around the sides. Like you could cut strips of parchment and go around the sides of the pan too. But it's up to you. If that's an issue for you and you're concerned about cooking with anything aluminum, then by all means, don't use aluminum. Use something else. It's totally your call. So,
what size is your scoop?
This scoop is 1.5 tablespoons, and I'm filling it a little on the fuller side. And that works really well size-wise for these muffins. It comes out just the same size as Little Bites. I figured that out from trial and error. Like, how do I make these look exactly like the store-bought kind? Because that's all they ever want.
How about, we have an Instagram user that wants to know about the fad of putting mayo in baked goods for moisture.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? The first time I heard it, I was like, mayo! Yeah. Like, that sounds crazy! But it's actually a trick that's been around for decades. I believe it started in like the Depression era, because there was, there was like a, I don't know, they didn't have enough like eggs and stuff to go around during the Depression. So people figured out that mayonnaise is just egg yolks and oil basically, and a little bit of vinegar, which are all good ingredients for baking, right? Like you always have eggs, you always have some kind of oil or butter, and vinegar helps the leavening to activate, so why not? And from what I understand, it's the one I always see is the chocolate cake, the mayonnaise chocolate cake, and I don't know if I've ever had it, but I've heard plenty of great reviews. People say it's like one of the best chocolate cakes you could ever make. So if you've ever tried it, let's hear it. How did you like the mayonnaise chocolate cake, or any other mayonnaise recipe for that matter?
How about brown butter? Any recipes or suggestions for using brown butter?
Brown butter, it's like a gift from the gods. It's so good. I love brown butter. That would have been good in this recipe, actually. Brown butter chocolate chip muffins, yes, please. I don't know that I have that many brown butter recipes on the website, but you just gave me a really great idea. And I might have to start doing more, but here's what I'll say about brown butter. If you're not already familiar with what brown butter is, it's pretty self-explanatory. You put some butter in a pan, you melt it, and it'll start like sizzling and popping and like spitting and stuff. And right after that, it starts to turn brown. And you get like a nutty color. Sometimes they call it beurre noisette. That's the fancy French term for it. And it gets like the most incredible, like deep, toasty kind of flavor. And it adds so much to whatever you're putting it in. Like sometimes I'll just make it as a sauce for pasta. It's that good. Like just brown butter, nothing else. It's so good. And you can use it in baking too. Like anything that calls for melted butter, you can sub with brown butter, because I mean it's melted butter. But if you're looking at a recipe that calls for butter that's not melted, like it's still in a solid state, you can still use brown butter. What you would do is you would brown your butter, you would pour it into a little bowl or dish, and then you would pop it back in the fridge and let it re-harden. And depending on what the recipe says, like if it's some kind of a pastry, like a scone, for example, you want the butter to be ice cold. Or if it's like a cookie recipe, you want it to be softened. So just, go along with whatever the recipe says, whether it needs to be ice cold or whether it needs to be softened. If it needs to be softened, then obviously it would go in the fridge till it's hard, and then you would take it back out and let it come to room temperature. But that'll add so much to whatever it is you're making. It gives it such incredible flavor. So thanks for bringing that up. And you gave me the idea that I should write a post on like how to make brown butter and how you can use it. So maybe you'll be seeing that on Baking a Moment in the coming weeks or months. Thank you. So I'm going to pop these in the oven. If you're making full-size muffins, I do them a little bit differently than the minis. What do these get, Jen? Like 10 minutes or so?
You know what? I didn't even look for the minis.
I think
they were 10. Yeah.
10?
Minis, 10 to 12 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So I'll put it in for 10, and then we'll check them. But when I make the full-size muffins, I usually start the oven at a higher temperature. So when they go in at 425 for 5 minutes. And that blast of heat really helps them to puff up nice and tall. It just gives them like an extra added boost, like really, blasts them and poofs them right up. And then after 5 minutes, you can't bake them the whole time at 425 because they'll burn on the outside before they're done in the middle. So you just do them 5 minutes at the higher temperature, and then you turn the temperature down to 350 and bake them the rest of the way like that. Now, I tried it with minis, the same kind of deal. I thought like, oh, I'll do 425 for like 3 minutes and then 7 more minutes at 350, but it didn't work. They got too brown on the outside. So when it comes to minis, just keep them at 350 the whole time and they'll come out perfect. And look at all this batter I still have left over. I only have 2 mini muffin pans. So, so I'm gonna be baking, I'll have to let these cool off before I can bake the next batch, but that's okay, it still works.
It's gonna delay your shopping.
Yeah, it is. It's true.
Barbara from Facebook says the mayonnaise chocolate cake is delicious. She's been making it for more than 30 years.
That's so great to hear. Honest to God, I have never heard a bad word about that chocolate mayonnaise cake. Everybody I know that's ever made it or tried it has raved about it. So it's a good one. Maybe I should put a recipe for that on my website too.
There you go.
Although I have a chocolate cake recipe that I absolutely adore on my website. So if you're ever, Barbara, if you're ever looking for something a little bit different, maybe you hop on over and check out my favorite chocolate cake recipe that doesn't have mayonnaise in it. It has butter and eggs, but it's great. It's really moist. It's really easy to make. It's a 1-bowl recipe, and it starts with the reverse creaming method, so you don't need a million bowls all over your kitchen. It all happens in 1 bowl, and it's got like a really rich chocolate taste. My pet peeve is when I go out somewhere and I order a chocolate dessert and it doesn't taste that chocolatey to me. Like, that makes me crazy. And it happens a lot for some reason. I'll be like all geared up for like, I'm gonna eat something chocolate, and then I get it and I'm like, well, it looks brown, but it doesn't taste like chocolate. How does that happen? I don't know. But whenever I make a chocolate recipe at home, like, I make sure that it tastes chocolatey, and this cake is very chocolatey. It's got a lot of great reviews on it too, so definitely check it out. Do we have other questions?
Somebody wants to know where you got your microwave. They've been looking for one where like the door opens.
Yeah.
Does, and they haven't been able to
This one's by KitchenAid, and I love this microwave. It actually has it has a middle rack that you can use, and you can set it to convection bake. So sometimes I'll even bake the muffins in there, and it works just like a convection oven. It's great. I've been really happy with it. I've had it for, I think, around 2 years now, and it's never let me down. It's been a great microwave. So KitchenAid.
A follow-up from Barbara. She's made your chocolate cake recipe, but she's made it into cupcakes.
Yeah.
But she does love the reverse creaming method.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? I'm a lazy baker. So like when I look at a recipe and it says like, put a bunch of stuff in 1 bowl and then put some other stuff in another bowl and another bowl and alternate, adding your dry and your wet in thirds. Like, I'm like, oh my God, it's giving me a headache now. I can't do it like that. Because I mean, like, baking can take a lot of time when you're doing it that way. And then you have all the dishes afterwards. Like, I want to be able to bake. I want to be able to eat like homemade baked goods and feed them to my family, but not be slaving away in the kitchen for hours and hours. And it's definitely possible. It's an achievable goal. You just have to be smart about the way you do things. So.
From Instagram, they want to know, have you ever had the All-American chocolate cake, which I guess comes from Costco?
No.
And if so, do you have a similar recipe? If you haven't had it, I can't really say.
No, I've never had it. I don't even know what it's like. I might have to get a Costco membership just so that I can try it.
You can try it.
I wish we had a Costco nearby, but we don't. We don't have any Costco. I think
I guess the closest one is all the way out in Montgomeryville.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, not that close, not that convenient. So, but I know people swear by Costco. So.
Their cakes are pretty good.
Yeah, and aren't they known for their muffins too? Don't they have like giant
They do
muffins?
have enormous muffins, yes.
Yeah, these are going to be minis, and I usually just do minis or standard size muffins. Honestly, like I don't think I could eat a huge jumbo muffin in one sitting. I mean, I'm like a glutton, but that's taking it a bit far.
Too much. Okay, so she just responded. It's a chocolate ganache 5 or 7 layer cake.
Ooh, so it's like 5 or 7.
Crazy.
That sounds amazing. So you're saying like 5 or 7 layers of chocolate cake with ganache in between each layer and ganache on top?
It's like a chocolate bomb.
I could get into that for sure. I could definitely get into that.
Totally.
Yeah, no, I don't have a recipe quite like that, but I do have one that's been pretty popular over the years, and it's called the Brooklyn Blackout Cheesecake Cake, and it's inspired by the Brooklyn Blackout Cake, which is like a super dark chocolate cake. It almost looks black, and in between it's got layers of chocolate like pudding almost, and then it's frosted and like covered with I think cake crumbs. I think they usually cover it with cake crumbs. But my version has a little bit of a twist, and instead of pudding between the layers, it actually has cheesecake between the layers, and it's a dark chocolate cheesecake. So it's got the layers of chocolate cake, dark chocolate cheesecake in between, and then it's got a dark buttercream frosting on the outside, and it was pretty amazing.
Pretty rich,
yeah,
delicious.
yeah, like I really loved it. I haven't made it since, but it was a big hit. I really loved it, and surprisingly, it got a lot of repins on Pinterest. I wasn't really happy with the way that the pictures came out, but I guess the idea of like chocolate cake with chocolate cheesecake and buttercream all together must have appealed to a lot of people, and they, decided to overlook the fact that the photos weren't that great.
Someone just added, that's great for a birthday with red wine.
There you go. Oh my gosh.
Could you imagine?
Yes.
Red wine just, oh my God, just great. Oh.
That might have to be my dinner tonight.
Wow, we went from doing cleanse today to cake for dinner. Awesome.
I can't do cake for dinner, but I do love red wine and chocolate. It's such a great combination, and I have a red wine and chocolate recipe on bakingthemoment.com that's a red wine and chocolate pot de creme, which is like a baked custard, and that is so good and really easy too. Like it whips up in like 10 minutes minus the bake time, of course, but it's like the richest, most decadent kind of dessert that you could ever make in 10 minutes. So if you like red wine and chocolate, definitely check out the red wine chocolate pot de creme.
Do you have a simple birthday cake recipe?
Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely. Well, the chocolate one that I was just talking about is a huge favorite, and it's one of the most popular recipes on my website. I have a layer cake version and a cupcake version on there. So you should be able to find that pretty easily if you just search Baking the Moment chocolate cake or chocolate cupcakes. And I also have a vanilla cake that I really love too. And right now I only have the cupcake version on the website, but I'm hoping to get a layer cake version up soon. But I mean, you can take the cupcake version and you can bake it in cake pans, and it works really just fine that way. So you just have to watch the bake times, because obviously a layer cake is going to take a little longer to bake than a cupcake would. But other than that, same recipe will work either way. I don't know what kind of birthday cake you're looking for, but let me know if you had something specific in mind, and maybe I can steer you in the right direction.
Hit kind of
A little bit of a lull?
a little bit of a
That's
lull,
okay.
so.
That's okay. We've got like 35 seconds left on this timer here. So the minis are just about ready to come out of the oven. I'm going to test them so that you guys can see. I've been like a broken record about this issue for the last like few months. A lot of times people ask me like, how come their cakes sink after they cool? And the number one reason that I know of is that they're not fully baked all the way. And I've said it over and over again. just because the recipe says to bake them for 10 to 12 minutes, don't listen to the recipe. You have to, you know, go in there and check for yourself. And the way you do that is, oh, look at how cute they are. They're so puffy. So the way I do that is, like, I will give them a little tap tap on the top, and they should spring back. They should be bouncy. They shouldn't, like, it shouldn't be where, like, you tap them and it stays down. Or it shouldn't feel like it's soft inside or liquid, definitely not liquid. If you tap them and they're bouncy, then you take your toothpick or your bamboo skewer and you stick it in the thickest part and pull it back out and look at it. And if the skewer comes out clean, now with this it'll probably come out chocolatey. But you don't want there to be batter. You know, you don't want to see any batter or anything like that. It should come out relatively clean. And if it does, then that's how you know they're done. If it doesn't, they're not done. Even if they've been in there for 16, 18 minutes, if it's still coming out wet, it's not done. Don't take it out of the oven. So these, oh shoot, I always do that with my oven. It gets screwy. Sorry, guys. I was gonna say, when I tapped them, they felt a little squishy inside. So I didn't even stick the skewer in, because if they're squishy inside, they're definitely not done. So I'm gonna give them 2 more minutes, and then we'll look at them again, and we'll look at them again, and they'll probably be done in 2 minutes. So that's how you know. So, and that goes for all recipes. Never believe a recipe when it tells you how long to bake it. Like, it's meant to be a guideline. It's not set in stone.
Going back to the birthday cake, they were just,
yeah.
It's Mona from Instagram.
Hey,
She says,
hey Mona.
She's just looking for a simple chocolate one. So
Chocolate.
Your chocolate cake recipe would be perfect.
Check out the chocolate cupcakes or the chocolate cake recipe. It has so many comments. I'm so proud of that recipe. I mean, it's a great recipe for a lot of different reasons. But when the comments started rolling in, it was one of the first recipes I ever posted. When the comments started rolling in from people saying, this is the best chocolate cake I've ever tried, I'm never making another chocolate cake recipe again after this. Like, there are a lot of comments like that on that cupcake post. So it's definitely tried and true, and it's got a lot of really good feedback. I think you'll really like it.
I've just been informed that you have now a new nickname.
Okay. Uh-oh.
One of our Instagram users says, "You're so awesome, and I'm glad you take the time to do these lives and answer all our questions. You become my fairy bake mother."
Aww.
And Philip says, "Thanks for joining today, Philip. Fairy bake mother, ha, that's her new name."
I like it. I'll take it. I will take it. Fairy Bake Mother, that's me. I should have named my blog fairybakemother.com. That would have been a good one.
Maybe that's your new tips and tricks instead of Bake Like a Boss.
Yeah, really.
Fairy Bake Mother.
In my next Bake Like a Boss, I'll have to mention that I'm the Fairy Bake Mother. All right, so I'm thinking these are definitely going to be done after an extra 2 minutes in there. Okay, they feel a lot springier than they did before, so let's give them a test. And it did come out with chocolate on it. Let me see if I can test another one that doesn't have a chocolate chip right in the middle of it. How do you know? How do you know whether you're going to hit a chocolate chip or not? Okay. I didn't hit a chocolate chip that time, and look at how clean my skewer is. There's not a single crumb, not a drop of batter, nothing. So these are done. They're ready to pull. And I usually just let them cool right in the pan. They don't take too long to cool because they're so little. But I'll let them cool in the pan at room temperature. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to give you guys a closer look. All right. Look at how puffy they got. Aren't they cute? They look just like the little bites, right? So I'll let them come to room temperature. Better. Thanks, Jen. So I'll let these come to room temperature, and then I'll pop them out of their little pan. And what I really love to do, I like to freeze them. So once they're at room temperature, I mean, ideally, you probably should put them on a sheet pan and freeze them that way, so they don't like stick together or like get, you know, bent or anything like that. not bent, but dented is what I meant to say. Squished, thanks. And then put them in the zip top bag after that. But honestly, I usually just throw them in the bag and pop them in the freezer. And it's great because every morning my son can have a homemade treat for breakfast. He'll usually eat like 3 of these. All right.
Kimberly from Facebook says she has a KitchenAid stove and she does the exact same thing with the timer.
She knows what I did.
For a while and she still
you
does
know
it,
what I
said.
did? It happens all the time. I go to change the timer and it changes the oven temp instead of changing the timer. And I know I didn't hit the wrong button. I'm sorry. I don't mean to badmouth my oven. It really is a good oven, but that's annoying. That happens to me a lot. I'm glad I'm not the only one. But anyway, what was I saying? I was going to say he has like 3 of these in the morning with a big glass of milk, and he is a happy little boy. He goes off to school with a full tummy and a smile on his face. So I'll just pull them out of the freezer. I'll put them in a little bowl for him, and I'll microwave them for like 45 seconds, and they come out perfect. It's just like they're freshly baked. They really hold up really well after freezing. So it's a great way to do it. And you can do the same thing with the blueberry muffins that are at the top of my homepage today. They work just the same way. As a matter of fact, it's pretty much the same recipe. They just have like a crumble topping on top of them, where these, I just leave them bare. So I hope you give this recipe a try. It's one of my favorites. It's definitely my son's favorite. If you have questions on it, just let me know. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. You can either put your question in a comment on the Facebook Live, and we'll come back and answer it. If you're on Instagram, feel free to send me a direct message. You can also hop over to the recipe post on bakingamoment.com. Go to bakingamoment.com. There's a search window at the tippy top. Just enter in chocolate chip muffins, and it should bring the post right up. And you can leave a comment on the recipe post too, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So do we have any other questions before we wrap up for the day?
We caught up with everyone.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it's 11:44, so I didn't go over the time limit this week. Yay! Every week, I'm telling you, I don't know how this happens because it doesn't take me, it's because I'm gabbing so much, that's why. But like, normally when I'm baking in my kitchen, it never takes me more than an hour to do anything. But whenever I'm on these lives, I somehow always end up going over the time limit. So I actually did it right for once this week. But anyway, so if you are on Instagram, this video will be available. You can rewatch it over the next 24 hours. After that, it's going to go bye-bye. But it will be on Facebook indefinitely. You can go to facebook.com/bakingamoment, and in the left-hand sidebar, there's a category for videos, and within the videos category, there's a playlist for lives. So you can see all the lives we've done, and we've been really good about it. We've done them pretty much every week, same time. We missed a few weeks in early January, but other than that, we've been really consistent. So there's a lot of them in there to watch. If you enjoyed them, please go in and take a look, and maybe even share with someone else who you also think might enjoy it. But I do want to mention that next week there's not going to be a live. I'm actually going to be traveling. I'm going to be in Utah next week for a conference. So we won't be doing a live next week, but I think the following week we can, right? Mm-hmm. That's not your vacation week, is it?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not on vacation until June.
So yeah, so I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. And if you have any recommendations for me while I'm in Utah, I would love to hear them. I've never been to Utah before. I'm going to be in the Salt Lake City area, which has been on my bucket list forever. I can't wait to see all the like beautiful scenery and everything else. So if you have any recommendations for me to try while I'm in Utah, give me a shout, okay? And unless there's any other questions, nope, she says nope. Okay, then I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Have fun making muffins.